Your problems are not the world's entertainment. They never were, and they never will be. Every time you broadcast your struggles, you're not gaining sympathy, you're training yourself to be weak. You're programming your mind to see yourself as a victim instead of a victor. And the harsh reality, most people have enough problems of their own without carrying the weight of yours. Raise your hand if you've ever spent more time talking about a problem than actually solving it. Keep it up. Look around. This is the majority of humanity, people who have confused discussing their difficulties with addressing them. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle isn't intelligence, luck, or connection. It's this. Successful people solve problems in private, while unsuccessful people broadcast them to anyone who will listen. There was a man who worked in a factory for 30 years. Every day he would come home and tell his wife about the incompetent supervisor, the unfair workload, the company's poor decisions. For 3 decades, he rehearsed the same complaint. His wife listened patiently, his friends heard the stories, his neighbors knew every detail of his workplace frustrations. But in 30 years of talking about these problems, he never once applied for a different job. He never enrolled in night school. He never started a side business. He never took a single action to change his circumstances. He just talked, and talked, and talked. When he retired, he was bitter, broke, and still blaming everyone else for his situation. His problem wasn't the supervisor or the company. His problem was that he had trained himself to be a narrator of problems instead of a creator of solutions. He had become addicted to sympathy instead of committed to change. What's your factory story? What problem have you been discussing for months, maybe years, without taking real action to solve it? The answer reveals everything about why you're exactly where you are right now. Your mind is like a garden. Every thought you think is a seed. Every word you speak is water and fertilizer. When you constantly talk about your problems, you're watering the weeds. You're fertilizing failure. You're growing exactly what you say you don't want. The farmer who spends his day complaining about the weather will have a smaller harvest than the farmer who spends his day tending his crops, regardless of the weather. The difference is focus. The unsuccessful person focuses on what's wrong. The successful person focuses on what can be done. The unsuccessful person broadcasts their problems to gain sympathy. The successful person works on their problems to gain results. The unsuccessful person wants others to understand their struggles. The successful person wants to understand their solution. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending problems don't exist. This is about redirecting your energy from announcement to action. Every minute you spend describing your problem to someone else is a minute you could have spent solving it. Every conversation about how difficult your situation is could have been a conversation about how you're going to change it. The truth is, people don't really care about your problems. They might listen politely, they might offer empty encouragement, but they're not going to solve them for you. They can't. Even if they wanted to, they can't live your life, make your decisions, or create your success. That responsibility belongs to you alone. When you stop telling people your problems, something powerful happens. You stop rehearsing them in your mind. You stop strengthening the neural pathways that keep you stuck. You stop identifying yourself by your struggles and start identifying yourself by your solutions. You begin to see yourself as someone who handles challenges privately and presents results publicly. The most successful people you know didn't get there by talking about their problems. They got there by solving them. They didn't broadcast their struggles. They built their strength. They didn't seek sympathy. They sought solution. They understood that every problem is an assignment, not an identity. Your problems are not your personality. They're not your story. They're not your brand. They're temporary obstacles that require temporary solutions. But when you make them the center of your conversations, you make them the center of your life. You become the person who always has something wrong, something difficult, something unfair happening to them. Stop being that person. Stop being the one who always has drama, always has an excuse, always has a reason why things aren't working out. Start being the person who handles their business quietly, and shows up with results. Start being the person who transforms challenges into comebacks without needing an audience for the process. The habit of complaining is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. You can spend your entire life in that chair, moving back and forth, feeling busy, feeling justified, feeling understood, but you'll still be in the same place. When you stop, the chair didn't take you anywhere because it was never designed to. Your problems are not conversation starters. They're not bonding experiences. They're not ways to connect with others. They're assignments that require your attention, your energy, and your action. When you treat them as entertainment for others, you strip them of their power to teach you and transform you. The moment you decide to stop talking about your problems and start working on them is the moment your life begins to change. Not because the problems disappear, but because you begin to develop the muscles to handle them. You begin to build the confidence that comes from solving things instead of just discussing them. You begin to see yourself as capable instead of victim. This requires discipline. It requires you to bite your tongue when you want to complain. It requires you to redirect conversations when they turn to problems. It requires you to become uncomfortable with the sympathy you've been seeking and comfortable with the solutions you've been avoiding. The farmer doesn't plant seeds and then spend his days telling everyone how hard farming is. He plants seeds and then tends to them. He waters them, protects them, nurtures them. He doesn't need applause for his effort because he knows the harvest will be his reward. He works in private so he can reap in public. Your problems are seeds of your future success, but only if you plant them in the soil of action instead of the shallow ground of conversation. Only if you tend to them with solutions instead of watering them with complaint. Only if you nurture them with discipline instead of fertilizing them with excuses. The person who talks about going to the gym but never goes will never build muscle. The person who talks about their diet but never changes their eating habits will never lose weight. The person who talks about their business idea but never takes action will never build wealth. The person who talks about their problems but never works on solutions will never experience breakthrough. Talking is not doing. Discussing is not deciding. Explaining is not executing. The gap between what you say and what you do is the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Close that gap by reducing the talking and increasing the doing. Your mouth is not a tool for broadcasting problems. It's a tool for speaking solutions into existence. Your conversations are not therapy sessions for your struggles. They're strategy sessions for your success. Your voice is not a megaphone for your pain. It's a microphone for your progress. When you change what you talk about, you change what you think about. When you change what you think about, you change what you act on. When you change what you act on, you change what you get. This is the chain reaction that separates those who transform their lives from those who just talk about transforming their lives. The world doesn't need another person who can articulate their problems perfectly. The world needs people who can solve problems effectively. The world doesn't need more people who can explain why things are difficult. The world needs people who can make difficult things look easy. The world doesn't need more victims of circumstance. The world needs more creators of circumstances. You have a choice right now. You can continue to be someone who talks about problems, or you can become someone who solves them. You can continue to seek sympathy for your struggles, or you can seek solutions for your success. You can continue to broadcast your challenges to others, or you can handle them privately and present your victories publicly. The choice you make will determine not just what you achieve but who you become. Because the person who solves problems privately becomes someone who can handle anything life throws at them. The person who broadcasts problems publicly becomes someone who needs others to validate their struggle. One creates strength, the other creates weakness. Your problems are not going anywhere as long as you keep talking about them instead of working on them. But your solutions are waiting for you to shift your focus from discussion to action, from explanation to execution, from talking to doing. The moment you make this shift, everything changes. Not because your problems disappear, but because you become the type of person who makes problems disappear. Life operates on patterns, and the person who understands these patterns holds the key to their own transformation. While others are surprised by setbacks, you can predict them. While others are caught off guard by opportunities, you can prepare for them. While whales react to life, you can respond to it. The difference between reaction and response is the difference between slavery and freedom. Who here has noticed that certain types of problems seem to show up in your life repeatedly? Raise your hand if you've said, "Why does this always happen to me?" Keep those hands up. You've just identified the most important truth about success and failure. Your life follows patterns, and those patterns are created by your choices, not your circumstances. Every pattern in your life, the good ones and the bad ones, exists because you've fed it, you've reinforced it, you've practiced it until it became automatic. The person who always has money problems has developed a pattern of money-losing decisions. The person who always has relationship drama has developed a pattern of drama-creating behavior. The person who always has career setbacks has developed a pattern of career-sabotaging choices. But here's what most people miss. These patterns aren't permanent. They're not part of your DNA. They're not cosmic punishment. They're simply habits that have become so automatic, you don't even notice them anymore. And any habit can be broken and replaced with a better one. The seasons change in predictable cycles. Spring follows winter, summer follows spring, fall follows summer, winter follows fall. You don't question this pattern because you can see it clearly, but your personal seasons follow patterns too, and most people are blind to them because they're too busy complaining about the weather, instead of learning to work with the seasons. Your times of struggle are not random. They come when you've been neglecting the fundamentals. They come when you've been coasting instead of growing. They come when you've been consuming instead of creating. They come when you've been talking instead of working. These seasons of difficulty are not punishments. They're correction. They're life's way of getting your attention and redirecting your energy. Your times of opportunity are not random either. They come when you've been preparing. They come when you've been consistent. They come when you've been solving problems instead of broadcasting. They come when you've been building instead of complaining. These seasons of breakthrough are not luck. They're the predictable result of right actions repeated over time. The person who succeeds learns to recognize these patterns and work with them instead of against them. When they feel a season of struggle approaching, they don't panic. They prepare. They tighten their disciplines. They reduce their distractions. They focus their energy. They know that this too shall pass, but only if they do the work required to move through. When they feel a season of opportunity approaching, they don't waste it. They don't get comfortable. They don't coast. They multiply their efforts. They maximize their focus. They know that seasons of harvest are limited, and the wise farmer gathers as much as possible while the gathering is good. But most people live their entire lives fighting their patterns instead of learning from them. They complain about their struggles instead of studying them. They waste their opportunities instead of maximizing them. They stay stuck in the same cycles year after year, wondering why nothing changes while they continue to make the same choices that created their current situation. Your biggest enemy in breaking these patterns isn't bad luck, unfair circumstances, or other people. Your biggest enemy is your own mind's addiction to comfort. Your brain is designed to conserve energy, which means it prefers familiar patterns over new ones, even when the familiar patterns are destroying your life. This is why you'll sabotage your own success. This is why you'll find ways to fail just when things start going well. This is why you'll create drama just when life becomes peaceful. This is why you'll spend money you don't have just when you start saving. This is why you'll eat badly just when you start losing weight. This is why you'll pick fights just when your relationships improve. Your subconscious mind is more comfortable with familiar pain than unfamiliar pleasure. It would rather keep you in a known struggle than allow you to experience unknown success. It will manufacture problems to keep you in your comfort zone, even when your comfort zone is actually a prison. The person who breaks free from these patterns must become conscious of them first. You cannot change what you cannot see. You cannot fix what you will not acknowledge. You cannot overcome what you refuse to own. The first step in breaking any self-sabotaging pattern is to catch yourself in the act of sabotaging. Notice when you start talking about your problems more than working on them. Notice when you start making excuses instead of making progress. Notice when you start blaming others instead of taking responsibility. Notice when you start seeking sympathy instead of seeking solutions. Notice when you start explaining why you can't instead of finding ways you can. These are the moments when your patterns are most active. These are the moments when your subconscious is trying to pull you back into familiar territory. These are the moments when you must choose between the comfort of your patterns and the power of your potential. The successful person has learned to recognize these moments and respond different. Instead of giving in to the pattern, they lean into the discomfort. Instead of seeking comfort, they choose growth. Instead of following the familiar path, they create a new one. Instead of being a victim of their patterns, they become the architect of new ones. This requires you to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Success lives on the other side of comfort. Growth happens outside of familiar territory. Breakthrough occurs beyond the boundaries of what you've always done. If you're not regularly uncomfortable, you're not growing. If you're not regularly challenged, you're not changing. If you're not regularly pushing yourself, you're not progressing. The person who stays comfortable stays stuck. The person who avoids discomfort avoids success. The person who refuses to be challenged refuses to change. The person who won't push themselves won't progress. This is not a suggestion, this is a law of life. Your patterns will fight you when you try to change them. They will whisper that it's too hard, too risky, too different. They will remind you of past failures and predict future ones. They will make you feel like an imposter when you start acting differently. They will create anxiety when you step outside your comfort zone. They will manufacture reasons why you should quit when you start making progress. This is normal. This is expected. This is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's a sign that you're on the right one. The stronger the resistance, the more important the change. The more uncomfortable you feel, the more growth you experience. The more your patterns fight you, the more they know they're losing their power over you. The key is to expect this resistance and work through it anyway. The muscle gets stronger by lifting weights, not by avoiding them. Your willpower gets stronger by using it, not by saving it. Your confidence gets stronger by acting despite fear, not by waiting for fear to disappear. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen the new one. Every time you choose action over excuses, you build the muscle of success. Every time you choose solutions over problems, you become more solution-oriented. Every time you choose to work on your challenges privately instead of broadcasting them publicly, you become more powerful. The person who masters their patterns masters their life. They stop being surprised by their setbacks because they can predict them. They stop being caught off guard by their opportunities because they've prepared for them. They stop being a victim of their circumstances because they've learned to create their circumstance. This person doesn't have fewer problems than everyone else. They have better systems for handling them. They don't have more opportunities than everyone else. They have better preparation for recognizing and maximizing them. They don't have more willpower than everyone else. They have better habits that require less willpower. The difference between the person who succeeds and the person who struggles is not intelligence, talent, or luck. It's the willingness to study their patterns, recognize their triggers, and choose different responses. It's the discipline to do what's right even when it feels wrong. It's the courage to be uncomfortable in service of their growth. Your patterns are not your destiny. They're your starting point. They're the raw material you work with, not the finished product you're stuck with. They're the canvas, not the painting. They're the foundation, not the building. What you build on that foundation is entirely up to you. The person who takes responsibility for their patterns takes control of their life. The person who blames their patterns on others stays powerless. The person who studies their patterns becomes wise. The person who ignores their patterns stays stuck. The person who works with their patterns instead of against them becomes unstoppable. Stop fighting your patterns and start understanding them. Stop being surprised by them and start anticipating them. Stop being controlled by them and start controlling them. Stop being a victim of them and start being the architect of better ones. The cycles of your life are not random. The seasons of your experience are not accidental. The patterns of your results are not coincidental. They're all the predictable outcome of the choices you've made, the habits you've developed, and the responses you've chosen. Change your choices, and you change your patterns. Change your patterns, and you change your life. But this change doesn't happen through conversation. It doesn't happen through explanation. It doesn't happen through talking about what you're going to do. It happens through consistent daily action that builds new neural pathways, creates new habits, and establishes new patterns that serve your success instead of sabotaging it. Consistent daily action is meaningless unless you know exactly which actions to take. The person who runs in circles consistently will just get tired. The person who works hard on the wrong things will just get frustrated. The person who takes action without direction will just get busy. But the person who takes the right actions consistently will get results. How many of you have a morning routine? Show me your hands. Keep them up if that routine includes something that directly contributes to solving your biggest problem. Half the hands just went down. This is why most people stay stuck. They're consistent with activities that make them feel productive but don't actually produce results. Your daily disciplines must be surgical, not scattered. They must target your specific challenges, not generic self-improvement. They must move you closer to your goals, not just make you feel better about yourself. They must create measurable progress, not just positive feelings. The first discipline is the discipline of silence, not meditation, not quiet time, not reflection. Silence about your struggle. Every morning when you wake up, you must make a conscious decision to keep your problems to yourself. This isn't about hiding or pretending everything is perfect. This is about redirecting the energy you would normally spend talking about problems into energy spent solving them. Most people wake up and immediately start rehearsing their difficulties. They think about what's wrong, what's hard, what's not working. They call friends to discuss their struggles. They post about their challenges. They turn their problems into morning entertainment. This is the exact opposite of what successful people do. Successful people wake up and immediately start working on solutions. They don't discuss their problems. They dissolve them. They don't broadcast their challenges. They address them. They don't seek sympathy. They seek progress. They understand that morning is the most powerful time of day because your willpower is strongest and your excuses are weakest. Your second discipline is the discipline of focus. You cannot solve every problem at once, but you can solve one problem completely. Most people try to fix everything simultaneously and end up fixing nothing permanently. They spread their energy across multiple challenges and wonder why nothing changes significantly. Choose one problem, the biggest one, the one that if solved, would have the most impact on your life. Then spend the first hour of every day working on that problem and that problem alone. Not thinking about it, not talking about it, not researching it, working on it. Taking specific measurable action that moves you closer to a solution. If your problem is money, spend the first hour of every day on income-generating activities. If your problem is health, spend the first hour of every day on health-improving activities. If your problem is relationships, spend the first hour of every day on relationship-building activity. If your problem is skills, spend the first hour of every day on skill-developing activities. 1 hour, one problem, one solution, every day, without exception, without excuses, without explanation to others about why you're doing it. Just do it. Your third discipline is the discipline of measurement. You cannot improve what you do not measure. You cannot solve what you do not quantify. You cannot progress toward what you do not track. Most people work on their problems with no clear way to measure progress, which means they have no way to know if their efforts are working. Every day you must measure your progress, towards solving your chosen problem. If you're working on money, measure your daily income generating activity. If you're working on health, measure your daily health improving behaviors. If you're working on relationships, measure your daily relationship building actions. If you're working on skills, measure your daily skill developing efforts. Write down 3 numbers every night before bed. First, how many minutes you spent working on your problem today. Second, what specific action you took. Third, what measurable result you achieved. These 3 numbers will tell you everything you need to know about whether you're making progress or just staying busy. The numbers don't lie. The numbers don't care about your feelings. The numbers don't accept excuses. The numbers reveal whether you're actually solving your problem or just talking about solving it. If your numbers are consistently low, you're not working on your problem, you're working around. Your 4th discipline is the discipline of elimination. Every day you must eliminate one thing that's not contributing to your solution. This might be a distraction, a time waster, a negative conversation, a useless activity, or an energy-draining relationship. You cannot add productive activities to your life without removing unproductive ones. Most people try to solve their problems by adding more to their already crowded schedules. They think the solution is to do more without first stopping the activities that are keeping them stuck. This is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. It doesn't matter how much water you pour in if you don't fix the leak first. Every evening, ask yourself, what did I do today that moved me closer to solving my problem? Then ask, what did I do today that moved me further from solving my problem? The first list should grow longer every day. The second list should grow shorter every day. If both lists are growing, you're not making progress. You're just getting busier. Your 5th discipline is the discipline of replacement. You must replace problem-focused conversations with solution-focused conversations. You must replace complaint-based thinking with action-based thinking. You must replace excuse-making behaviors with progress-making behavior. You must replace sympathy-seeking activities with strength-building activities. This replacement must be immediate and non-negotiable. The moment you catch yourself about to complain, redirect to action. The moment you catch yourself about to make an excuse, redirect to effort. The moment you catch yourself about to seek sympathy, redirect to solutions. The moment you catch yourself about to explain your problem, redirect to executing your plan. This is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending problems don't exist. This is about training your mind to default to solutions instead of problems. This is about building the mental muscle that automatically asks, what can I do, instead of why is this happening to me? Your 6th discipline is the discipline of completion. Every day you must complete one task that directly contributes to solving your problem. Not start a task, not work on a task, not think about a task. Complete a task. Most people have dozens of half-finished projects and wonder why they never see results. Completion creates momentum. Completion builds confidence. Completion produces results. Completion proves to your subconscious mind that you're capable of solving problems. Completion changes your identity from someone who tries to someone who achieves. The task doesn't have to be big. It just has to be complete. Make the phone call, send the email, write the page, exercise for 30 minutes, save the money, learn the skill. Whatever moves you closer to your solution, do it completely. Start it, work on it, and finish it in the same day. Your 7th discipline is the discipline of accountability, but not the kind you think. You're not accountable to others for your progress. You're accountable to yourself for your choices. You're not seeking external validation for your effort. You're seeking internal transformation through your actions. Every night, before you go to sleep, you must honestly evaluate your day. Did you work on your problem or just talk about it? Did you take action or just take notes? Did you make progress or just make plans? Did you solve something or just discuss something? Did you build strength or just seek sympathy? This evaluation is not about judgment, it's about awareness. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's not about being hard on yourself, it's about being honest with yourself. The person who can honestly evaluate their day is the person who can improve their tomorrow. These disciplines are not suggestions, they're not options, they're not things to try when you feel like it. They're daily requirements for anyone who wants to transform their life from problem-focused to solution-focused, from victim-minded to victor-minded, from talking about change to creating change. The person who follows these disciplines daily will see their problems shrink and their solutions grow. The person who ignores these disciplines will see their problems grow and their solutions shrink. The difference is not talent, intelligence, or luck. The difference is discipline. Your problems are not going to solve themselves. Your excuses are not going to change your circumstances. Your explanations are not going to improve your situation. Your conversations about your difficulties are not going to create your breakthrough. Only your daily disciplined action will transform your life. The world is full of people who can tell you everything about their problems. The world is short of people who can show you their solutions. The world has enough victims. The world needs more victims. The world has enough people who can explain why things are hard. The world needs more people who can make hard things look easy. You have a choice. You can continue to be someone who talks about problems, or you can become someone who solves them. You can continue to seek sympathy for your struggles, or you can seek solutions for your success. You can continue to broadcast your challenges, or you can build your victories. The choice is yours. But remember, no one really cares about your problems. They care about your solution. They care about your results. They care about your progress. They care about your victory. Stop giving them your problems and start giving them your power. Your problems are not your story. Your solutions are. Your problems are not your identity. Your results. Your problems are not your future. Your disciplines are. Start today. Start now. Start with silence about your struggles and action toward your solutions. The world doesn't need to hear about your problems. The world needs to see your progress. Stop telling people your problems. Start showing them your power.